Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Garbaugust, Garbaugust 3D. This is Ollie's event. Krim and Ollie made this event for August to get us all to put down all the heady stuff we're reading and wallow in trash instead for the month of August. And he has pulled out all the stops. If you go over to his channel, he has pulled out all. I'm sure you know. I'm sure that if you watch this channel, you subscribe to him. But he has pulled out all the stops with prompts and weekly themes and a bingo card and all kinds of stuff like that. Lots and lots of fun. And I'm having a blast. I like to include an element of trash in my reading anyway. I think it's really good to remember to just read some books purely for visceral enjoyment. As I mentioned, I read lots of new releases, which means I'm reading a lot of real trash. Trash that doesn't know it's trash. Trash that angers or soils. So I'm happy to read the real kind, the unreal kind, the fun kind, and we are still technically in the parameter of a prompt, one of which is category romances. Read a category romance, a Harlequins or a Mills and Boon, as part of Garbaugust. I resisted that categorization at first. I resisted that prompt at first because these things can be really good. Category romances can be really good. The equating them just flatly across the board with garbage is something that book snobs do. It's not actually real. But I see why they're included here. I'm sure that Ollie and all the other co-hosts have included this here specifically because of that reason. Because so many people think of these things just reflexively as garbage. So why shouldn't they have a place in Garbaugust, even if they aren't? But even so, even though I belatedly came to defend these things and have enjoyed them quite a bit, I decided that last night I would read a category romance that I thought had a chance of actually being trashy. I read a category romance the night before last, an old Regency romance. I'm sure that Cormac McCarthy Dubrow snobs would call it trash, but I loved it. I thought it was wonderfully done. But I thought, to get into the spirit of Garbaugust, I would read a category romance that really was trash. And just recently, Sarah at the Bookish Knitter, our category queen here on BookTube, who's making BookTube videos in the hospital. I swear, there are all sorts of you out there who are strapping and in your 20s. If you'd so much as get a hangnail, you take a 6-month hiatus. She's making videos in the hospital. She read a Harlequin Dare novel. Dare is a discontinued Harlequin line. If you watch Sarah's backlog of videos, you'll get the lowdown on all the various Harlequin lines and the ones that have been canceled over time, including, oddly, a handful of Harlequin lines that have been canceled over the unanimous protests of the readers. I don't get that at all. I don't understand that at all. But Harlequin Dare was a Harlequin line for a while, and it was extra spicy, extra explicit. So the complete opposite end of the spectrum from, for instance, Harlequin Love Inspired, or just the ordinary Harlequin romance. Not even Harlequin Presents, just Harlequin romance. The one that started it all. Nurses falling in love with doctors. Those books, the Love Inspired, they tend to be all but chaste. All kinds of spicy content are left to your imagination after the wedding day, but they aren't in the book. And then you've got varying spice levels all throughout the other Harlequin imprints. But Harlequin Dare? Harlequin Dare laid it all out right away and was very, very explicit on the subject. So I thought, if I read a Harlequin Dare novel, I have plenty of them. If I read a Harlequin Dare novel, surely I will get the trash that I want. So I read a book by Avril Tremaine. How's that for a pseudonym? I'm assuming that Avril Tremaine is a pseudonym. It is so incredibly 16th century England that I'm assuming that it's a pen name. But I read a Harlequin Dare novel of hers called Getting Lucky, which you can see right away what I'm talking about. And this is the story of a young woman named Romy, who she's done everything, she's tried everything, and she feels certain that being a mother is the phase in her life that she wants to do. And she wants to do in vitro fertilization with her friend Matt, her old college friend Matt. They've known each other for over a decade. He is gorgeous. He's a tussle-headed redhead. He's wealthy. He made an automatic pay bit of software that made him a squillionaire. And she wants to do this in vitro fertilization with him. And she goes to his mansion to ask him to lay out the paperwork and describe what this will mean. But he has other ideas. He's not against impregnating her, but he wants to do it the old-fashioned way. He doesn't want to do anything as pallid as lawyers' paperwork. He essentially wants to service her on the library divan, on the kitchen floor, on the Formica countertop, in the bathroom in a few different places, maybe in the lawn, maybe in and out of the hot tub. And that almost immediately proceeds to happen in the course of this book. The two characters are slopping around their bodily fluids so freely and so regularly in the course of this book that I swear I got some on me. And there are F-bombs on every page. There are ripped from Entertainment Weekly or TikTok cultural references all over the place. The writing is unbelievably lazy in that regard. It's all lazy idiom. It's all lazy slang and cultural references that they're gonna age like milk. This book, no one is going to read this book in 10 years, but if someone did, a lot of the cultural references would be unknown to them. And so I'm reading all of that as it's going along, and I'm thinking, yes, okay, well, this is exactly the kind of trash that I wanted. Sarah said in her video that in the Dare novel that she just recently read, the problem with it, the thing that actually made it a disappointing reading experience for her, was that the sex was the whole plot. And I was nodding when she said that, because I have read some Dare novels and some Harlequin Temptation novels where that was true. And it wasn't just lazily written. The whole thing was just that. It was just porn. It was just for you to enjoy one-handedly, so to speak. And I thought, as I was reading this book, the first couple of chapters, I thought, well, obviously, given the plot here, the sex is literally going to be the plot of this book. That's literally the whole point of Romy getting back in touch with Matt. And I was okay with that. I was okay with that, because that's nice, mindless trash. Until I noticed two things. There's always a but with me, isn't there? Until I noticed two things. One, yes, this is very lazily written. It's full of F-bombs and other curses and every single easy cliche in the book. But it's also got a huge amount of energy. It's hugely energetically written. I could not stop reading. And I'm not much for having hanky-panky on the page. To me, it's boring. And I still couldn't stop reading. Maybe not those scenes. Those particular scenes were still a little boring. If you spend any time on a farm, the simple act of mammals doing it together is not going to be all that amazing anymore. You're not going to be, oh my God. You're going to have to do more than that. And this book doesn't at first. But I noticed that energy. I noticed, well, boy, oh boy, say what you want about the ease of the content here, but you're not phoning this in, Avril. You're not phoning this in at all, and I appreciate that. Because you could write a book like this for the Harlequin Dare line that you did phone in. You could easily do that. Probably even sell it. The Harlequin editors aren't dummies. But they might take that. They might take it anyway. And you didn't do that. A Avril Tremaine did not do that. The other thing I noticed, though, was far more arresting. It grows on me. I didn't catch it at first. In fact, I went back to the first 10 chapters of the book once I was deep in the book and realized that she had been seeding this element all the way from the beginning, almost from the first page, which is that Matt and Romy are not alone. They did not have a one-night stand 10 years ago. They've known each other. They've been distant orbital friends. You know, that friend group where you're not always hanging out, but you always seem to be on the same wavelength. You can come back together and be friends. You stay in touch with each other. You know what each other is doing. You're there for each other. Matt and Romy are those kinds of friends, but they aren't alone. There's an extended group of friends. that they have. A couple of the friends are not like Matt. They are from old money. They're still squintillionaires, but it's old, casual, scruffy money, Hampton's money, rather than Matt's flashy mansion money. And they have wildly different personalities. Their friend Teague is nothing like either Romy or Matt. Matt is the daredevil. In many ways, he is the spiritual leader of this group. He's the one that will convince them all to go skydiving. But he's also the one who will always, no matter what, no matter how dark the circumstances are, he's always the one in the emergency room, or with the police outside, or when everything seems bleakest. He's the one who will say, it'll be all right. Everything will be all right. And he means it. It's not just a dumb platitude. He means it. He'll see to it. We all will. In the course of those early chapters, while these two are getting busy on the cutting boards, you are also getting a sense of this friend group and all the amazing adventures that they've had, and also all the times when they have been there for each other. And needless to say, more of those friends start entering the book as it enters its second and third act. It's still hot and heavy. It's still we're still trying for a goal here. It's not in vitro fertilization. It's extremely ex vitro fertilization, but we're still trying for a goal here, very enthusiastically. But I don't know how to say this. I don't want to sound condescending to Avril. But another book was trying to intervene in the course of this novel called Getting Lucky. Another book was trying to intervene here. The story of that friend group was trying to intervene here. A story that would have been written with just as much energy, but take out all the F-bombs, take out all the cheap cultural references, all the quotes from pop songs and whatnot. Take all of that out. Take all of that out. Take out all the sex. All of it. And instead, give us that story. Give us a story of this extremely unlikely friend group. Once you start looking past the money, the various kinds of money, and the couple of members of the group that don't have any, you start to realize how odd it is that these people are a friend group at all, and you want to know more about it. With everybody's clothes on and not off, I wanted to know more about that. Right away, you see the problem. I'm not saying specifically that it's a problem, but right away you see the problem, which is that would have taken an enormous amount more work to do than this. This book coasts on its F-bombs. It coasts on those racy scenes. It coasts on those things. And if you were going to write the other book, the book that's trying to horn its way into this book, well, you couldn't coast. You would have to work really hard. Now, I don't actually know if Avril Tremaine has the ability to write that book. She certainly has the ability to write some version of it that would still keep you turning pages. She has the ability to write gripping prose. That's no small thing. But does she have the ability to write a textured book on the subject? I don't know. I'll never know. I want to know. I very much want to know. Judging from the way these extra characters come in and out of this book, I am assuming that maybe either Avril Tremaine thought about giving us separate love stories for each of the friends in that group. That's a common thing in romance series. Writers will often do that. I don't know if she thought about doing that, and I also don't know if she ever did. I don't think I've ever read anything else by Avril Tremaine. So for all I know, she does return to this friends group. But I wanted a different book than this. So I had a weird split-screen reaction to this thing. Because on the one hand, boy, oh boy, is it joyous trash. I loved it. It is so skanky. Just from beginning to end, it is so eruptively, volcanically skanky that I felt soiled and happy the whole time. I was reading premium grade A trash. But I was also feeling a little bit of longing for a book that wouldn't have been trash at all. I don't know what to do with that, but I don't call this a failure at all. I don't call it even a disappointment. After all, I can't fault the author for not writing the book she didn't write. The book that she wrote, she writes with a hell of a lot of energy, and I enjoyed it. So my Garbaugust is doing fine. I think I have one more day to do category romances, so I will do that. I will double check, but I think I have one more day. I think the category romances end on the 17th. Then I don't know what follows after that. I think it might be movie tie-ins. But I might not strictly adhere to the prompts. You don't have to either. All you have to do is read trash. That's all. And I think by pretty much anybody's standards, this is trash. I loved it, but I think anybody would. I mean, if you had the paperback of Harlequin Dare Getting Lucky, I think you'd cover it on the subway. I don't think you'd want anyone to know you were reading this. And that's a prime candidate for trash right there. So there you go. Getting Lucky for Garbaugust. I enjoyed it. It was a weird experience. I almost wanted, by the 2/3 mark of this book, I almost wanted to write that story myself. Oddly enough, although Matt is the spiritual leader of this group, he's the one who takes the chances. He's the one who speaks for the others. He's the one that everybody relies on, even though he takes a very devil-may-care attitude. He doesn't pretend that he's solemn about that. Even though that's true, and even though I think that Romy is probably the beating heart of this group, the one that they all want to protect the most and be the most, I don't think they were the two most interesting friends in that group. I didn't learn enough to know for sure, but I think that a novel about a couple of those other people would have been more interesting. So maybe that novel exists. I'm not going to go looking. I'm going to move on to another category entirely, and we'll see what I think. We'll see what we do for next time, but this time was fun. So Garbaugust has resumed its excellent pacing from me. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.